Would somebody please tell George that spam is a valid food group? I don't know. I would swear that spam is a valid food group. But there's an argument. There's an argument going on here. But she just keeps telling me that it is not. And hi! Hey everybody, my name is Derek and I am the owner, creator, and a head silicone slinger here at OmVD, where we make silicone toys for adults. All right. Yeah, spam. It's a thing. I like it. George does not as much. But I digress. It's been a hell of a week. It has been a hell of a week. You might have known I moved my studio a few weeks ago. I'm still unpacking, and it has been an adventure. We'll put it that way. Have you ever had one of those projects or you go to do something and you're like, oh, I want to do this thing. And you grab the thing and you're like, but I need this other thing. And then you realize it's in a box, but then you don't know what box it's in. And then you're hunting for the box. You find the thing. And then you realize that there are like 7 other things that you need to do the project. And then they're all in 7 different boxes. Yeah, that's been my project. I had a project I had to do today. It was supposed to take like 45 minutes. It took 3 hours. Anyway, that has been my life for the last week. So, yeah. Anyway, I see Dub Sativas in the chat. Gorilla Machine, Yosh, awesome folks. Gorilla Machine's going to be a guest coming up soon. I think we got a date picked. So I think we've got all of that settled. And I want to be very appreciative to Gorilla Machine for being flexible with me, because I think there was a little miscommunication, and I think we got all that settled. But yeah, so look forward to Gorilla Machine coming on soon. We just keep getting more patrons, which is freaking awesome. I want to thank all of you who are patrons and who have been supporting us for, I think I set that up like a year and a half ago or something like that. Yeah, it's been awesome that you guys have been so supportive. I think we're up to like 25 patrons now. And I had no idea that there would be like that many people who would want to like support us. But I am thankful, and I want to appreciate every one of you. So one of the things we have done recently is we have added Discord to all of the Patreon tiers at this point. So if you join the Patreon, you will get access to the Discord. I'm not going to say it's great. It kind of depends on, well, it is what it is. I don't know. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you don't. But you will have access to the Discord as a patron. Yeah. What else? I have to do my advertising because that's what this is. Anyway, omvd.com. We are not back in production yet, but we will be soon. So you like the products, you can go there, you can find out about it. You can't order anything yet, but you'll get to eventually. I make sextoys.com, where you can learn how to make the things that we do. So yeah, I make sextoys.com. And we have, I don't know if I've ever told you what the address is. I don't think I've ever, academy.amavidi.com. Yeah, it exists. I don't know that I've ever mentioned it before, but it is part of the Patreon. If you are an Academy supporter or at the Academy level on the Patreon, you could get access to the course that we were working on, and it's kind of been on hiatus for a little bit because of the move and all that kind of stuff. And patreon.com/amavidi. Okay, I think I got all the advertising out of the way. I did all the things, right? Yeah. Okay. George is throwing links to all this stuff in the chat because she is awesome. George is running the chat. George is doing all the things in the chat, and she will be feeding questions to us as we go along. So if you do have questions, drop them in the chat, and she will get them to me. Tonight, we have Tangent from Monster City Fantasies, and I had a chance to talk with Tangent this afternoon, and I think this will be a fun one. There's some parallels here that I'm really curious to get into, and I want to do this. So let's get Tangent in and roll with this and see what kind of train wreck we can create. Tangent, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. How about yourself?
I am well. That is a freaking awesome mic.
Thank you very much. It's an MXL 990.
Ooh.
Running through a Scarlett Solo.
You know, I'm a little bit of a geek. I love tech, but it does sound good. It does sound good.
I'm happy you think so. It served me well for the year and a half that I've had it.
Yeah. I usually have to do some post-processing on my guest voices just to kind of fill out the, well, I mean, it's the internet and the voices don't always come through very well. So I always do a little bit of post-processing on their voices and kind of give them a little bit of a boost. But no, I had to actually back it off a little bit for you.
I'll take that as a compliment, frankly. Yeah.
Good. Well, tell us a little bit about you. Give us just a thumbnail sketch of who you are, Monster City Fantasies. What's the story here?
Certainly. If I had to give you a TLDR rundown of who I am, I'm a dude in my 30s. High school didn't work out, so I ditched that. Made it to college somehow. That didn't work out, so I ditched that. And then ever since then, I've kind of been looking for a craft, I guess. And then a whole lot of different weird stories in my life kind of converged into one moment where I had to stop and ask myself, like, have I been like looking this like in the face the whole time, and I'm only just now seeing it. So I made the decision to just start learning all the stuff to make adult toys, and then eventually I had a product to show for it and made a Twitter, and people were like, hey, we like that thing, do more of that.
Oh, that's awesome. Now we're gonna come back around to that, but now you just started what, like 9 months ago? I think I saw it was like September of last year,
give or take. Yeah, absolutely.
And you were part of Shop Dad's Design Challenge.
I was, funnily enough. I did have an entry that I wasn't aware that it was entered, because I had sort of like backed off of the design that I was trying to enter. My partner was Gem Finder, and I had messaged her like maybe 2 weeks before the deadline, and I said, hey, I've got a lot of stuff going on, like a lot of projects up in the air right now, and I really don't want to let you down on this, but like, would it be okay if maybe we didn't pull through on this one? And then 2 weeks later or so, she messages me and says, hey, they did our design on the podcast. And I was like, what? Why? It wasn't finished. It wasn't even close. And I watched it, and sure enough, like, yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a few comments that, well, one of them, I know that you ended up, well, you had already fixed before we actually made the comment, because it wasn't finished by the time. Yeah.
I struggled so hard because I'd heard some of the feedback on the podcast, and I was like, man, I did those things, but I didn't publicize the final product in a way that it would be considered. So I was like struggling with whether or not to like bother trying to save face, or just kind of be like, yeah, it's whatever. I'm not, who am I trying to impress? But sure enough, and then like maybe a week later from that, you hit me up, and I was like, oh no, now I have to answer for that.
Well, there's a redemption arc here. We'll call it that. We'll call it a redemption arc.
Phenomenal, yes.
Okay. Well, before the evening ends, we'll come back around to your design that was in the design challenge.
Certainly.
It was one of my favorites. But I want to come back around to kind of your origin story, because we have to have an origin story before we get to the redemption arc. And oh, man,
I like
wow, there's
this
a whole
saga.
right? I didn't even plan this. It's almost like there's like a story, and we could
Wait
do
for my
like
villain arc.
oh yeah. Well, there's a redemption arc, so we have to have a villain arc.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, I've got the perfect villain for us. I've got the villain. Okay, so there was the struggle of school didn't work out in multiple different ways, and then a couple of different professions, I assume, didn't quite work out.
Yeah, I've been in all kinds of work. I have served tables professionally at 5-star restaurants. I have mascotted at like a well-known chain. I won't name drop them. Fast food, retail. I've sub-floored a house. You name it.
Uh-huh. And now, the thing is that you've gotten, and none of those seem to coincide with what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So how did we make this transition from what you were doing to what you're doing now? Where is the transition?
So it all started the day of my birth. So for real, I have been a furry like my entire life. And while what I'm trying to do with Monster City isn't directly related to being a furry, there is a wonderful audience there, and they're my people. But in being a furry, one of the things that I dabbled in wanting to try was to be able to make fursuits, and I got a little bit of traction doing that. Let's not say traction, but I finished a couple of projects working on that, and part of how I learned to do that was casting resin blanks, and in order to do that, I had to learn how to cast silicone molds. So the tutorials that I followed taught me. I got a couple of visual aids just for gits and shiggles. Silicone molds to cast resin in, and just kind of doing some like costume heads. This is not fursuit material, but costume heads, and this was old. So, and then I kind of practiced it a little bit better and got somewhat better. I made a crow.
Oh wow.
That I would wear to like Renaissance fairs and stuff, and the jaws are like hinged and wearable.
Right.
So what I did then was I used what I learned and applied to work for the person whose tutorials I followed. and I said, hey, look, all these things that you've been doing, I learned how to do as well from you. And they hired me. So I got to be able to work in a workshop that makes costume parts for fursuits, a lot of which were silicone. So I learned a lot about silicone. Making costume parts like tongues and stuff for fursuits and whatnot. And then it kind of like eventually kind of sunk in, and I was like, wait a second, I'm learning how to just make silicone products. Like, this is what they use to like make sex toys and stuff, isn't it? So we laughed about that occasionally at the shop. Like hypothetically speaking, wouldn't it be funny if one of us used these disciplines and like went on to make, adult toys and stuff? And then all the other stuff I've kind of like learned over time. I don't want to get too tangential, like too sidetracked with the conversation of how I got started. But I can elaborate as deeply as you want. And that all of that happened like over the span of several years. All of that happened at the same time as toward the tail end of all that, I was trying to get into voice acting because it was another thing that I wanted to like dip my toes in, like a childhood fantasy that I was like, hey, I'll give it a shot, see how it turns out. So I've dabbled into that a little bit, hence my microphone and my cans and my, soundproofed area or sound treated area. And from that, I learned a lot about running a business, which, as it turns out, I didn't want to be voice acting because I wasn't as into it as I thought I was. So the whole making adult toys thing sounded less and less like a bit and more like a viable option, but I was lacking so many skills to get started. And then put a pin in that. And then my third story was I had a friend who messaged me one day on Discord with a screenshot from Blender. And it was, I'm going to describe it as a collection of spheres and cubes mashed together. And he said, hey, I'm learning Discord. Here's my Twitter, you know, whatever, dude. So over the course of about a year, I watched him go from mashing shapes together to making like fully rendered 3D animations and stuff. And I was like, he's just doing it. How are you allowed to just do it like that? Like, you're just doing it. And then I was like, wait a second. I can also just do it. What if I just did it? So I picked up Blender. How hard
could it be?
Yeah, he can do it. Why can't I? So I picked up Blender, spent like 2 months in it, and then I saw like around, I think it was around September, funnily enough, or maybe August, and I was like, I was talking to my girlfriend, Jess, and I was like, hey honey, there's this 3D printer that's like 20% off. What if I bought a 3D printer and was like super serious about this? And then from that point on, I was like, I know the steps, I know the tools, I somewhat know the materials within reason. And then, yeah, I was like, I made a model that I was happy with, and I poured silicone.
Huh. All right. Now, let's identify the villain in all of this, because there's a lot of jumping around that's been happening, and I feel like there's a villain that we could point to and give it a name. You want to name that villain?
So the fourth storyline that led up to this moment happening was everything I've described up to this point. I have suffered from ADHD and not been treated or known about it. But at some point in all these mishmash of events and all these dramatic changes in my life, I went and saw a psychiatrist, and they were like, holy cow, boy, do you have ADHD. So I was able to get, guidance and, treatment for it. And I take some medicine now, which is beneficial. And that was the linchpin that kind of opened up my eyes to the fact that wait a second, people can go through life just doing things they want to do. Mm-hmm. I've never known that before. So I feel like just the door is open, and then, pair that with a community that's been as welcoming and inviting as this one has been. It's been surreal. I don't want to say how easy it's been, but how accessible this has been.
Right.
It's got challenges. Yeah. But it's so accessible. Like, everyone here wants you to succeed. And it would make me feel bad if I didn't do my best. So
yeah. Yeah. No, like you said, it's not easy, but it is accessible. And that's one of the things that that a lot of us have really worked hard to do. Me, Shop Dad, and various others have worked very hard to make it accessible and make it easier for people to at least learn how to do it well. So, no, it's good that we kind of put a name on that villain, and that we're able to get to that. And we've kind of completed the arc here, so we'll quit beating that dead horse. But I think I want to come back around to because I'm going to jump around now, and George is over here claiming that I don't have ADHD, but I'll ignore that just because I can. Let's see. I want to show everybody your design that was in the design challenge. Can I do that?
Oh yeah, we were talking about that, weren't we? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Because
I'm in outer space right now.
I know. I'm the one that's supposed to be in the lead here, and I'm the one that's supposed to be in charge. But I'm
in charge.
George has delusions of grandeur and thinking that she's in charge. So I think this is where we're going to start. Inspiration? Is that where we are?
Gem Finder. Inspiration was, she brought that to me and was like, hey, I'm sold on this idea. Can you turn this into 3D? And I was like, I'm still learning, but man, I will do my darndest.
Yeah. And I have to say, this, we'll come around to the actual design in a minute, but I love this cannoli design. I love this idea.
I have a kind of a humorous flop to show alongside this that I don't think I attributed much to this being the inspiration for it, if I may. In preparation for trying to like get this done, I tried to do a desserty pour, and it didn't turn out good at all. So I wanted to make like a sort of tres leches or something, and I made like 3 different shades of like beige and cream and brown, and then I did like a reddish for the topping, but all of the creams blended together for like a flesh color, and it just turned into like a penis dipped in pink, and I was heartbroken. So sad. And I haven't sold this because I don't want this to exist, let alone in somebody else's possession. But yeah, Gem Finder brought that to me and was like, "Hey, I'm super into these like desserty themed pours." She first gave me the sketches, and then I pulled up all the different images and was like, you know, for confirmation, just to verify stuff like this. Like, is this kind of like the general aesthetic you're looking for? And she was like, yeah. So we kind of went back and forth, and I would send her pictures of what I was working on, and she would say, hey, like, I like this, you know, what about this, or how does this look? And that was pretty much where the inspiration came from. I want to attribute all of it to her, because when we were talking about designs, I wanted to do the flare design, just because I had in my head kind of like a I think she and I both played D&D, so we were talking about like a lizard folk kind of druid thing, so more of like a reptilian design with like some viney, shafty stuff. But then it was a non-starter because I can't sketch.
Now, I think this was the version that Shop Dad and I saw.
Yeah, I think it was.
And, you know, we kind of had some comments about it was a little bit low res, and
needed a base, a flare base.
Then there was the base. We had some problems with the base because, you know, it could get lost, and, you know, I think I also had a comment about this tip being a little bit too sharp or something like that.
Possibly, I would agree.
And I think Shop Dad also commented this hard line that's happening right here. This may not have been welded properly or something like that. But you know,
they weren't combined and remeshed just yet.
Yeah. But I think you were also saying that this was not your final design.
Yeah, I didn't, like I said, I wanted to save face and be like, oh no, guys, this was what I made. Not that it was, you know, any further down the line of being done, but I was like, oh guys, all the stuff that you said I should do differently, I did. I just forgot to show you, which doesn't do anybody any good, I know, but I didn't say anything about it.
But then I think this is what you ended up posting this in your Twitter.
Yeah, as a comment to my previous post, as opposed to its own standalone post, so nobody saw it. My bad. It's on me. That's on me. That's my my Twitter amateurism.
Yeah. But this solves all the problems. I mean, the base, you solved that. Yeah. I think depending on how you do your mold, you know, this part down here, getting that out of your mold could be a little bit interesting. Having that thin neck there.
Yeah.
You might have to taper that just a little bit more. But
I had a lot of fun doing those layers of like icing and stuff. That was a fun thing to sculpt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, at the base. But yeah.
But
I also don't think I remeshed it, so like all those hard edges are definitely not my preference.
Right. But I also know that, you know, this is obviously not a final version. I can tell that just by, you know, some of it's a little bit low poly, some of it's still doesn't look like it's been welded. Yes, needs some smoothing, things like that. So I'm not going to be too harsh on it.
I learned a lot. For what it's worth, that taught me a lot. Good. Which was my goal. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you worked with Gem Finder, and now who is Gem Finder?
Gem Finder is in the community. She's a member of the community. They,
Okay.
I don't want to assume, they remember the community. They're someone who was my first customer and has been incredibly supportive of me so far. Like, I don't want to undersell anyone's contributions to their investment in what I'm trying to do. But if I had to say anybody was close to a super fan status, Gem Finder has definitely been a big motivating factor to make me feel as though like what I'm doing matters to somebody, you know, somebody other than me, and those in my immediate orbit believe in me a great deal, which is hugely inspiring.
Yeah. Since we're talking about it, Yosh was asking why the giant strawberry as a knot.
So if you look at the concept art that she sketched up, she has almost please don't be upset at me, almost kind of like a fortune cookie kind of shape around where the knot would be, which was no doubt meant to kind of be more of the, I don't know what the cannoli is meant of, pastry, puff pastry, I don't know. And I was trying to like wrap my head around how I would make that look in 3D, and I was thinking, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And then I saw the one that she did below that with the strawberry, and I was like, okay, here's a thought. What if I had a strawberry stuffed up into the underside of the cannoli in an almost suggestive looking way? I feel like that's a lot of fun. And it would also contribute to the cannoli being stuffed to like the more knot-like shape. So I was like, I'm gonna give that a shot and see how it looks, and I liked it.
By the way, somebody has suggested, well, I'm not going to say suggested. Somebody referred to it as the camoli.
Yes, that is canon. That is officially. That's it. Simply put.
Okay. Jeez. The chat goes off the rails sometimes. Yeah.
I love it. I'm here for it. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Camoli. You make me feel holy. All right.
Was that George? Yes, that was George.
It wasn't me.
George's immaturity notwithstanding, I want to remind everybody, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. George will get them to me. Let's see. Oh, man. I've kind of lost my whole train of thought here.
Chocolate chip inclusions. That's chef's kiss on that one.
Yeah.
I have not fussed with near clear much, and I found that what I do use, which is EcoFlex, I don't feel like is transparent enough for inclusions, but man, that would look rad. Like, wow, that would look so cool. Or even like berries or, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you say you haven't worked with near clear yet?
I have some of it. I bought some off of my workplace who decided that they don't want to use it because they didn't like it very much. And I've used it a little bit. I don't like the firmness of it that much. It's pretty stiff. And EcoFlex is just like, it's wonderful. I like how it looks, and I kind of have to reconcile liking how it looks with how I'm going to use it. I'd like to use it more.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I've kind of like just totally lost my train of thought. Was there something that
we were talking? We went from talking about the feedback on the model after the inspiration for it, and then me tweeting it amateurishly.
Yeah. So, let's see. Which direction should we go in next? Do you want to? Do you want to drive?
Do I want to drive? You offered me a train wreck when you went live. Do I want to drive this train into the... Let's see. Well, we covered who I am, and I mean, we could talk about why I'm doing this. Like,
ooh, I like that question. Hey, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
We all get into this for different reasons, and you know, some of them are better than others. But I'm always curious. What's yours? Why did you decide that this was right for you?
You took the question right out of my mouth. It's like you knew what I was going to say. So I guess that kind of like goes to the whole fifth storyline of what got me here, and the convergence of what got me started is I grew up as a furry and into the things that I was into, and I got started with Bad Dragon pretty much for them year one. And I didn't understand the concept that there might be a community of like, monster fuckers and stuff out there. And recently I had read the words for the first time, fictophile and fictoromantic. And I was like, oh, those words speak to me on like a deep spiritual level. And it kind of occurred to me that like, I kind of have been that my entire life and not known. I've always found fictional characters, fictional creatures, monsters and stuff to be things that I not only find, like intimately attractive, but just connect with and relate to in a, meaningful way. So when all those other things kind of came into place and I was thinking like, is it necessary for me to get into like making fantasy toys? I had kind of had the revelation of like, honestly, it's what I want. I want to do it not just for me, but for others like me who might need to feel a sense of belonging or community around the things that they're into and give them a place in which they can feel like these weird things that are hard to explain to others have a certain level of legitimacy and canonicity in their own lives and worlds. And that was kind of what made me feel like, yeah, even if I don't get as big as, Bad Dragon does, what's important to me is that other people who are like me feel comfortable enough to, do this kind of stuff.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah. Fictophilia as an intense, long-term parasocial love or desire relationship between human individual and a fictional character. Like I couldn't say it better.
Yeah. George is great for looking things up on the internet.
Yeah. I just fucking fictional characters. Sorry, but like friggin' fictional characters, man. Like whether or not they're a monster, I don't have to deal with all the baggage of another human being. I'm not gonna worry about embarrassing myself because you're not real. I'm not gonna embarrass myself in front of a written character.
Stormy had an interesting question. How did you decide which firmness to use when you first got started? Did you start by purchasing sample squishies?
Humble brag. I live in Dallas, Texas, which is where Reynolds and Smooth On have their flagship distribution store. So I'm able to actually go up to the Smooth On store in person and ask if I can grab all their stuff, to which they typically cringe and ask me to leave. And I say, let me rephrase, I apologize. So I actually get to go up there and handle a lot of like pre-made stuff from all these different materials.
So grabbing their bits is generally frowned upon. Okay.
Yeah, like just getting a good handful.
And you've got.
But I can also
well.
ask. Yeah, I haven't personally shopped there, but I do know people that either have shopped there or have worked there. So I have feelers in that direction, but
okay.
As a beginner, I'm kind of a Smooth On. What's the word? Not fanboy, but devotee, if you will.
Right. Yeah. Now, I interrupted. You were going to say something.
Grabby customer. What was I going to say? Was it important? Did it sound important?
It did. It did sound important.
I saw that somebody asked about a large Volceris up there.
Yeah.
Large in the future. I know that I've been saying in the future a lot in regards to like stuff that I want to make. One of which was medium Volceris, and I have a medium Volceris here to show off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not only a medium Volceris, but a signature pour medium Volceris, which I'm very, very thrilled to have.
That one. Yes.
Yeah, so this has about, I would say, 6 point something usable inches. And I'm so thrilled. I want to make a larger one, but I promised myself I would make all of my mistakes as small and cheaply as possible. So now that I trust the method and the model, I'm going to scale it up for sure. So not a large yet, but we're getting there. And if this is large for you, then good news. Yes, we have a large for you.
No, I love the color on that one.
Thank you.
Kind of magma, and that lava base. I love all that.
I sent you a couple of pictures of how they light up under UV as well.
That's right.
These are they're ultraviolet orange and yellow pigments with a little bit of pretty shimmer. I'm sorry, mica powder to go in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's them under UV. Boy, big glow up.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I like
those
the
are
silhouette.
gorgeous.
Man, those are pretty. I'm proud of those.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm new to calling myself an artist because I've never really considered myself any more of an artist than I was just simply creative or imaginative. But now that I'm looking at stuff and I'm like, I made that, I'm starting to realize, like, man, I should be proud of some of this stuff. This is kind of cool.
But people pay you for this. People
Well,
give
I
you
mean,
money.
they don't know. They don't know what they're doing. People pay artists. I'm a shop.
No, but well, that's let's come back around to that because I mean, you've got a shop, and
Mhm.
people like your stuff. I mean, people generally don't just throw money at other people for nothing. They generally give.
I gotta convince
money
myself of that.
They generally give money to somebody because they either appreciate what they're doing or they're getting value out of it in some way. They're
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
a product
And-
or something. Yeah.
And that's wild to me, man. Like, I've always been the consumer. It's being on the other side is weird.
How big of a transition has that been for you? How have you made that transition?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's definitely changed the way I look at how I spend my money in a way. It's kind of like made me realize. I guess I was never aware of the fact that my money goes to a person, because whenever you're buying a product, I never really thought about the fact that somebody, my money was going to support someone, whether or not they were a big giant like multi-million-dollar corporation, or whether or not they were somebody like us who was just doing this on the side for fun or as a hobby or a passion. So realizing that people are coming to me to buy my stuff because I'm not Bad Dragon, for example, makes me realize, like, first of all, this community is amazing, but second of all, there is a certain, pride to be taken in not sticking with all the names that and same is true for restaurants, trying small mom and pop restaurants versus chains that you know reliably would have good food. So it teaches you to appreciate what goes into running a business.
Yeah. What's been the hardest part of it for you?
Pacing myself. Without a doubt, the hardest part has been pacing myself. Like, there are some times that I'm like listening to like TED Talks or trying to like listen to ebooks about how to, like, for example, like how to hire and manage employees. And I gotta stop and be like, man, I'm years away from that. If that ever happens, I probably should just rein it in a little bit. Or I'm coming up with, like, in my imagination, I'm like 5 models down the line of what I want to do now, but I've also not finished sanding my second model for the Masters. So I was like, I gotta quit thinking about that and just focus on what's on my plate right now. I'm looking into like hiring artists for character art, and I'm like, yeah, but when am I gonna want to do that? Like, that's so far away, it seems like. So focusing my energy and attention on what I have on my plate right now has been the hardest part, because I'm excited and I want to be excited and do stuff. But I got to work to get there, and I got to look at it as a journey, not a destination. So that's been tough.
Yeah, that excitement, but there's also part of it is the vision. You've got to have that vision of where you want to be.
Yeah, and I've been nothing in my entire life, if not more imagination than execution. That is a badge I wear, and I'm trying to do it different this time. I'm trying to do it right, and it's tough. I'm thrilled to be here.
Just word of warning: there is no such thing as right, but yeah,
Right? Yeah.
I'm
trying to do it efficiently.
Oh God. Efficiency is the opposite of creativity.
I don't like how good that sounds.
But it is. When you are trying to become efficient, you are taking everything that is creative out of it, because creativity is absolutely messy. Creativity is the antithesis of efficiency.
I need that as a tattoo. That is I need to read that every day. That's got to sink in. I like it. That works.
Yosh. Oh gosh, this is a question for both you and me. How is it when you see your products in the wild? Like, is it a sense of pride or just excitement?
It's a weird realization that I sell sex toys.
Mm-hmm.
I forget that I do.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm selling glass art in a way. And, you know, I read reviews. I've got reviews on Etsy that say, hey, like, you know, this toy feels good. And I'm like, feels good. Oh, right.
That's what we do this for.
Yeah. I was doing it because it was cool. I forgot that that's what I'm gross. No, I'm kidding. But no, it's crazy. One of the most surreal things that's happened in this entire journey is the first time that I got tagged by someone whose name I didn't really know, and I looked at their Twitter, and it was a picture of their collection, of which mine was in there, and I was like, what? Honey, come look. It was crazy.
Yeah. I think the first time I felt like I had, this is not the right way to put it. This is not how I mean it. Made it, if you put it that way, is when I saw one of my toys on the secondary market.
Yeah, I can see that.
Is that, you know, somebody, it was, and I was 50-50 on that. It was kind of like, oh, wow, somebody, it's actually out there. And, you know, it was something
It's in circulation.
It's in circulation. But then on the other side of that is, oh, it wasn't good enough to keep.
Right. Well, don't always assume that. You know, it could have been somebody having hardship. You never know.
Right.
Somebody could have just outgrown their, you know, fascination with it.
Yeah.
One of the questions is, do y'all ever have booths at conventions? So, funny story. Two things happened at the last two cons that I went to. One was earlier this year, Texas Furry Fiesta. One was last month, Furry Week in Atlanta. I'm a furry. I apologize. At TFF here in Dallas, I introduced myself to somebody, and I gave them a sticker. And they were like, "You're Monster City?" And I was like, no way. No way do you know who I am. No effing way. And they're like, oh, like your signature like lava thing is awesome. And I was gonna cry. But they were dealing, and they said, are you ever gonna deal at conventions? And that was the first time that like the seed was planted in my head. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if that's a natural progression? And then at FWA last month, my roommate, who was also a dealer, who had a pretty good con, I was talking, and I was like, man, somebody talked to me at the TFF, and they're like, when are you going to do a convention? And I said, I don't know. Like, I don't know when I'm going to be ready. And his response was like, you're ready now. Like, do it now. Like, sell what you have. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, what is your opportune time? Like, what do you want things to look like when you're ready? Because by that time, you're going to have another excuse why you don't want to.
Yeah.
And he said, sell what you have. Sell what you have. Just sell what you have. So I've been kind of thinking more and more about it, honestly. Like, even if I just show up with a table of like 10 things on it, the point is that those 10 things are going to, advertise me. They're going to show people who I am. And,
yeah,
it's going to allow me to springboard onto bigger and better tables at other cons and stuff. Yeah, I have dealt at furry conventions with the company that I work for. It's a great experience. It's a lot of fun. Like, it's a blast being in there, like in the trenches of convention life.
Yeah. Well, Gorilla Machine had a comment. He was saying, I feel this segment so much. And like you were just saying there, you made a comment that I was like, I feel that so much, because it was, what are you waiting for? Because when you think you're ready,
George says, done is better than perfect. Literally above my computer, I have a picture that says that very same phrase. This is my motto.
And then I think the second half of that was because when you think you're ready, or when you reach the point when you think you're ready, you'll have another excuse. of why you're not ready.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
I feel
going
that's
to
so
move your
hard.
own goalposts as long as you allow yourself to.
Yeah, because your expectations are just going to keep going.
And that's fine. You know, expect a lot of yourself, but don't let that, don't get analysis paralysis, you know, when you feel like the iron's hot. Let the iron be hot, you know, and strike with it.
Yeah, and just go with where you are and roll with it, and just, you know, it's like I keep telling people this, but, you know, now's the time to fail.
Yeah.
When
Absolutely.
when you're small, and, you know, even now I say, you know, people, it's funny because people look up to me as if I'm some kind of role model, and like in the Google form that I had you fill out, because people don't always know this, but I have my guests fill out a Google form that kind of just gives me a little bit of a bio and gives me some information. And one of the questions I ask is about, you know, what would make this a home run for you? And your comment was, just being invited makes this a home run for me.
Yeah. When you followed me, it was already a home run on Twitter. When it said like Emma Video is following you, I was like, oh, wow, that's awesome.
And I'm like, it's like that kind of stuff. It's like, I'm not a role model. I'm not something to be looked up to. I'm just a guy out here doing this. I feel like I'm still small potatoes, or as George put it, it's tater tots. I'm just a freaking tater tot out here. And I'm like, this is a time for me to fail, which is why I do this. It's like, if I'm going to fail at doing a live stream, if I'm going to fail at doing, you know, podcasts or YouTube videos or whatever, I'm going to do it now, because I'm small. I'm just
me. That's
me.
why my toys are so small. I want to make my mistakes quickly, cheaply, and little.
And so, you know, if you go back to my live streams from, you know, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, or whatever, they've probably gotten better since then. I hope they have. But
I just got done binge watching a lot of them, a lot of like sporadic ones across 1 and 2. When I mean, there's a dramatic increase in quality between, you know, you can visibly tell the more practice you get, you know, the more comfortable, the more familiar you get with your tools, which is true for any craft.
yeah. All right. Let's see. No, George, I'm not going to cry. I might get a little
okay,
misty. I might
I'll
get
cry
a little
with you.
misty. Oh. Let's see. Anything?
One of my favorite.
I should.
No,
No, go ahead.
it's a tangent.
I need to get over to
it's
my.
a tangent.
Go for it. I need to get over here to my chat with George and see if there's anything that I am overlooking.
One of my favorite interviews with Macho Man Randy Savage. I forget who he's talking to, but it's like a late night talk show. And they ask him if he ever cries. And his answer is like, Macho Man loves to cry. Like, it's just really intense about Randy Savage just bragging about how much he cries. And it's wild. Like, nothing's more tough than when you're not afraid to shed tears, brother. Great. It's great advice, honestly. I love it.
Let's see. Yosh says, you and Shop Dad are figureheads in the community. Oh, God. I'm a cautionary tale. Shop Dad is a figurehead. We're at opposite ends.
Both can be learned from.
Yep. Radioactive Cow. I pay your shop for the art. Yes. I mean, that's... Yeah, like you said, you know, sometimes we separate ourselves from what it is that we make and how we do it, and the process and the material and the product, and what people do with it. Like you said, you know, when you see that comment about how much fun it was, and then you kind of remember, oh my God, that's what we make. I forgot about that.
Yeah. It was art. It was an art project to me. I forgot why you bought it. I wasn't thinking about that. Yeah. Once it left my hands, it was just like, well, on to the next pour.
Yeah.
Any painters that inspire me?
Yeah, I was just reading that one.
Yeah. So funnily enough, painters inspire me, yes, but not to make dicks. But one of my favorite painters is Caravaggio. Funnily enough, I really love the way that that painter paints such intense blacks in such intense areas of like darkness with bright lights, and their shading is like next to none.
Yeah. I don't know. As far as painters, I'd have to think about it.
My art history course was brief. It was there, but it was leading.
Yeah, painters not so much. I think, I mean, the ones that come to mind are Lichtenstein, Warhol, Mondrian, but they're not. They're not painters that you could really kind of draw directly from.
Yeah, it's hard to connect the dots between like Renaissance painters, Renaissance oil painters, and fantasy dicks and dildos and. I mean,
Right.
Inspiration. Take where you can get it. Right. Don't look it in the mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you could take the color inspirations from Warhol. I mean, that's something
absolutely.
I can definitely take. And some of the, like George is talking about, George is talking about pop art. Lichtenstein's kind of his cartoonish style. But then I love Mondrian's, that very blocky, that simplicity. It's like it's like take your inspiration from where you can get it. And I'm going to segue. It's tangent. It's a segue, but it's skipping rails and we're tangenting. George wants me to talk about.
Tangenting.
Yeah. There was this is a video I posted in the Discord. And it is something that it was a video I found on YouTube. There's a guy that I follow, and he makes music. Let's see, how do I put this?
I saw that.
He got started creating hardware, like rack mount hardware for musicians for producing music. So like hardware compressors and hardware. I'm missing the words. I can't quite come up. But anyway, that's how he got his start. So he's been in the music industry for a long time. He did a video about understanding where you are in your process and knowing and not getting mixed up with where you are in your process. So one of the things he talked about was, there is a song, and then there is an arrangement of a song, and then there is the performance of an arrangement of a song, and then there is a mix of a performance of an arrangement of a song, and then there is the production of a mix of a performance of an arrangement of a song. So, if you're in the arranging stage, you shouldn't be writing the song. And if you're in the mixing stage, you should not be in the performance stage. Or it's understanding where you are in your process and staying in your lane, so to speak, at that point. And I think it's something that a lot of us, especially those of us who are doing everything, who do every part of our business, we sometimes forget, and at some point, like when we're sculpting, when we're sculpting a design, sometimes it's just about getting down the shape. Sometimes it's just about that. We shouldn't be throwing in the details yet.
I was never a good drawist, but one of the reasons that I wasn't so good at it because I didn't have the patience to finish a thing before adding details. You got to block things out. You got to connect all the lines and make your shape. And then you got to, the details, the last part that you do, but that's the part that I like the most. So I would always skip ahead to doing details. And because of it, I never caught on to drawing. But with 3D, that's the last thing you got to do. You got to get your ducks in a row. You got to block shapes out and, you know, make them look good. And yeah, like in the same way that don't vector paint your models and do your 3D rotation for your presentation when you are an hour into the sculpt. You know, you're not doing yourself any favors. Use your energy where you are. Eat what's on your plate.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting thing that I'm having to like keep myself in check with.
Yeah. And you know, when we are doing everything from start to finish, you know, when we're doing shipping and we're doing sculpting,
yeah,
it's so hard.
In the last 9 months, I have learned to use social media for the first time ever. Learned to 3D sculpt in Blender. Learned to 3D print objects. Learned how to sand and cast master copies and molds. Learned how to use certain pigments and silicone. Learned how to design a functional dildo. Learned how to interact with people in a way that markets a business that you're trying to do. Learned how to run an e-store and take product photos. Like, man, holy macaroni.
Don't forget product descriptions.
How to write good, meaningful copy. Yeah. And that's just the stuff that I can think off the top of my head. Like, I had to learn how to go to the post office. I've never done that before. That was new to me. There's a whole building of mail that you can go to sometimes for whatever reason you need to. So I had to learn how to like mail stuff in 2023.
Licenses and taxes.
I'm not even to that part yet. Like, and again, I'm trying to look into that stuff. And I'm so far away from just that. Like, I got to worry about trying to pay for commercial stuff on, you know, my logo, for example. Like, oh, there's so much to learn.
Yeah. But you don't have to worry about all of it all at once.
No,
Deal
not
with
all at
what
once.
you got
Small
to
doses.
where you are. Yeah.
Small doses.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like, you know, I want so badly to show off more toys, but I got to pace myself, you know, like I got the molds, I got the silicone, I'm going to make them, but I got to pace myself.
Yeah.
SEO. Yeah. SEO. Oh my goodness. How to be seen, because being there isn't nearly enough. How do I get Google to show me under Monster City when somebody took the Monster City Twitter account and hasn't been active on it in 12 years? Yeah. Don't show them. Don't show them. Show me.
That, and also, you know, I don't know, you're shadow banned or something like that.
I guess. Yeah. I'm new to Twitter, but apparently I just don't show up as search results now for whatever reason. I don't know.
Hexhour says the post office is scary.
Yeah, and let me tell you, Twitter has made that so easy. I'm sorry, not Twitter, Etsy, because I can just go onto Etsy and buy a printing label, print it, stick it, and walk in there and just like drop it off on the counter and say, "I'm out." That's it. 3 seconds tops.
So why did you choose Etsy?
It seemed the most beginner friendly.
Okay.
Like it seemed like it would carry the most weight for me. Because again, that big laundry list of stuff that you got to learn, you know, the most that you can offload into somebody else. So I don't think of it as like I'm using Etsy. I think of it as I'm paying Etsy to do work for me. It's kind of been like my mentality of it. I'm outsourcing tasks to Etsy, and I felt pretty comfortable with that. As such a small, you know, beginner, it's taught me a lot.
Gorilla Machine, when you are not dong smithing, what do you fill your creative time with now? Has it shifted?
Well, my girlfriend is a fursuit designer and maker. She's very prolific, very well known in the community. And honestly, she's taken me under her wing, and I've been doing a lot more fursuit stuff. If you look through my Twitter, you can see kind of some of the projects that I'm at. The suit that I wear in my like suit versus suitor thing that I retweeted from my Safe for Work suiting account that's new was one of the things that kind of kept me away from the Shop Dad contest, because she and I were making that as a big collaborative project. So, you know, she took on commissions, but now she does kind of pre-made fursuits, and I'm learning all that stuff too, because that's also a deep interest of mine. So sewing, you know, foam sculpture, yada yada yada. I made if anybody knows what a circle is, I made a circle head almost by myself last year. It was rewarding as hell. I loved it.
You know what? If you search for Mayor Tangent that will find you on Twitter.
Mayor Tangent.
Yes, Mayor Tangent.
But why not my ad? But why not my ad?
I don't know. Monster
Twitter,
City.
why though?
Oops.
Yeah. And I shouldn't say this because of the strictly safe for work context of the species. But my first shoot is a Dutch angel dragon, and they have the longest tails.
Let's see. Monster Cities.
I have to like maintain my tail and like grab it and pick it up and walk with it. People will step on it and trip on it. It's a hassle. It's fun. I like it.
Yeah, for some reason it won't find you. It may be the comma. You have Mayor Tangent, comma, Monster City Fantasies. It may be the comma that's throwing it off, but even the app won't find it. Yeah. But Mayor Tangent will find you, and Monster City will find you. So if you want to find Tangent on the Twitters, you can do it that way. Sorry, I had to find it. I had to figure out some way to get people to you because
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's just stupid the way that Twitter works sometimes. But
I do want to try suction cups.
Yeah.
I think it was Radioactive mentioned suction cups. I do want to try suction cups. I haven't gotten to the point that I have had kind of like the spare time to experiment with that, because Lord knows I'm going to over-engineer some 3D printed thing that goes on top of the mold and boop, dips into it and whatever. I'll figure it out when the time comes. But I think of it as a must. Like, it will be a thing that I do eventually.
Let's see. Built-in, dual-ended, and vacuolock have finished, and final checks will be in the store in the coming weeks. Okay, so Gorilla's Machine is off in the chat selling his stuff. Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Please do. Honestly, yeah, I'm thrilled to see them. I think that they were one of recent follows of mine. I don't get to see everybody all at once. I'm still kind of like having some makers trickling into my from my peripheral to my field of vision. And Gorilla Machine just kind of like popped up one day recently, and I was like, oh, how do I not follow them? That's amazing stuff. So yeah. I'm stoked to see them on here.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Don't forget, you get to ask me questions too if you want. So I'll throw that out to you. While we are waiting for any further questions from the audience, I'm going to do a few more epic fails. Let's hear about an epic fail. I always love this one because I love hearing about tragedies. There's a little bit of schadenfreude.
I have two. One's quick, but the other one is a story. Quick one is this. Jess, my significant other, she is a craftmancer. She is just the master of everything she touches, and she's kind of my materials expert. So if I have any questions about this or that, while a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, most of it is done with her oversight because she's the one that taught me. Again, oh, I didn't mention that, did I? So the tutorials I followed that taught me what I knew to make fursuits, that I applied for a job with and got the job, that person is now my significant other. So we've been together for going on about 3 years now, and life couldn't be better.
Okay.
But she has also helped me oversee a lot of this stuff and kind of say like, hey, don't mix those two things together, or like, hey, vacuum that longer, yada yada yada, or pour and mold at this angle, not this angle. She's genius. She poured this one pridefully, and we didn't sell it as a flop because my concern is that the mica powder has too big of a grain. But she was trying to mix together some greens and yellows, and it turned into what she calls the corn cob. So we're gonna,
unfortunate.
We're gonna hold on to this one. Yeah, it's very corn cobby. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, but we chuckle at it affectionately.
We have a corn cob.
Yes, corn cob master race.
Yes.
So my big epic fail, if anybody follows me on Twitter already, this happened a few weeks ago. You're probably going to know this story already, or at least that it happened. Oh. We were doing the first mold for the master of our medium Volceras. And I had printed out the shell, because I do like the matrix glove mold with like the 3D printed shell around it. It works very well for me. I had everything in place. I glued the mold flat. I glued the mold, the box around it. I had mixed something like 18 ounces of dragon skin, which I think was a little bit too much, but we're learning. And I was like, I should have Jess oversee this because something doesn't feel right. So I was like, hey, can I borrow your attention for maybe like half an hour and have you just kind of like oversee this pour so that I've got an extra pair of hands on hand if anything happens. So I'm pouring this medium-sized mold. And mind you, the other toys that I've done are this size. This is what I'm prepared for. Again, make my mistakes fast, cheap, and small.
Yes.
So I'm pouring this large amount of silicone, and the toy gets to the mold gets to be, you know, pretty full. And I spring the smallest leak on the bottom. And she says, I say, hey, there's a bit of a leak on the bottom. How do I handle that? And she says, did you glue all the way around it? And I'm like, of course I did. And she says, did you glue under it? And I'm like, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I forgot. So she's like, uh-oh, this is like, we've sprung a leak on the bottom of the mold. This is the worst case scenario right now. Go get me my wax-based clay, heat up the hot glue gun. So I scurry through the house to get her clay, and she's like pinching the clay, trying to get it to fit around the bottom of the mold. And because it's so slippery, because it's silicone, the clay's not adhering. So, all of her best efforts cause the split to widen. So the small drool of silicone turns into like a small stream of silicone, and the whole time she's trying to like scoop it back on top of the mold. And I'm like, don't do that. You're going to get debris in the mold. I'm not going to be able to use the mold even if you save it. So she's like, okay, hot glue gun, plan B, hot glue gun. So I get the hot glue gun, plug it in the kitchen, which is where our little station is at on one of our spare kitchen counters. And she's trying to glue around it. And her best efforts cause the leak to get bigger. So the little stream turns into like a bit of a modest flow of silicone. And then she's like, okay, just grabs the mold, holds it down as hard as she can, and is like, starts shoveling it back in. So I'm shoveling the silicone back into the top of the mold. She's pinning the mold down as hard as she can go, and we get it topped back off. And she's like, okay, I'm just going to hold this here for now. I'm going to go, I forget what it was she was trying to do. I think we were like incidentally making dinner at the same time. So she's like, okay, you hold the mold down as hard as you can, and I'm going to go do extra Y. I forget at the time. So we go to swap grips on the mold box, and in doing so, the other side springs open. So her hands are covered in silicone. My hands are gripping this just like sopping wet silicone covered 3D printed mold box down, trying to like staunch the flow just with pressure alone. And it's like, what's that scene in that show where that person walks into that room and everything's on fire and like it's just mayhem in there? Like that was us in our kitchen, and we're just taking turns holding this thing down and trying to like with a spoon trying to like shovel silicone back into the top of it, but also make more on the side to top it off from what we've lost. Yeah, that was the final product. And like we're hot gluing down the sides, and we have exercise weights on top of the mold in a cup trying to weigh it down. And ultimately we opted for this. If it's got a pot life of 40 minutes, all we got to do is keep this up for 40 minutes. So 40 minutes in, the flow begins to slow, not because we did anything right, but because we mixed it. At minimum, we mixed the silicone. This is fine. Yeah, the room is on fire, and I'm just sitting there. This is fine. Literally, you can quote me. I was saying, throw it away. Throw it away. We'll start over. It's not worth the stress. I'm straight up having a bad time. But yeah, I mean the mold works. I've pulled multiple toys out of it, and at the very lip of the top of the mold, maybe around like right here on the inside of the mold, there's just a little piece of I don't know what. And it's like it's 2 millimeters or 3 millimeters in, so like it's fine to cast in or whatever. Yeah. But there's just a little memory, encapsulated right there by the lip of the mold that I could look at every time and relive that. But yeah, so that's been my biggest fail so far.
I think it was Monster Fergus. He had a story similar to that, but it was bigger. It was much bigger.
Well, yikes.
Yeah. So what's playing in your studio? What do you listen to while you're working?
I listen to a lot of, and make fun of me for this, please grill me. I listen to a lot of like lo-fi hip hop stuff, mostly because I have ADHD. I'm so prone to distraction. If I'm watching stuff or listening to stuff, I'll quit working and I'll pay attention to it. So I need to listen to as mindless a thing as possible, so that I can get into a flow and kind of like get out of my head and into what I'm doing. So just the most unimaginative lo-fi hip hop, lo-fi girl study session, 8 hours of lo-fi whatever playlist.
Wow. See, I can't. For me, the most mindless thing is something that I've heard 1,000 times before.
Mm-hmm.
So I have stations I've listened to so many times. It's that repetitive something I've heard so many times that yeah.
I used to just work in total silence, and then I guess I was told that was weird, so I tried something else.
Let's see. Question. I don't know where this one came from. How do you find makers you like?
Mostly on Twitter. Also, I go to conventions, and those have adult dealers dens, and I might walk by someone that I feel like I've never seen the name of before. Something else that I find that I've had kind of a good amount of luck with is whenever people post collection photos, I go through those. This happened earlier. You were showing me one, and I was like, oh, that toy right there, that's from so and so, and I want one of those. Like, I love the way that they do that. So whenever someone posts a collection photo, I'll scan that stuff and just look for designs that I don't recognize and that I like, and then I'll ask them who it was, or I'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those collection photos are really nice for that. And then a lot of times, and yeah, they're the big collectors, or the collectors with big collections. Those are the ones. And they'll often, they'll put together small groupings and they'll tag the makers in those.
Yeah.
But often Twitter suggestions. Twitter is actually fairly good about, suggesting new accounts. That's how I find a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So
the retweeting helps a lot too. People that you do follow retweet those that you don't, and then just like that, a connection's made.
Yeah. What euphemisms have you used for the products that you make?
Honestly, all of the company I keep is very sex positive, and now I just say I make fucking monster dicks. Sorry, I just make monster dicks. Like, I'm completely transparent about it. Like, I have no shame at all. I'm proud of it. I'm thrilled to be part of it. I say that I make monster dicks and fantasy dicks, and I made a dragon dick. You can, if you don't like it.
Yeah. Now, so your friends, your family, they all know what you do?
Yeah. Okay. Funnily enough, again, joking about it at the workplace, whenever I got around to actually doing it, I couldn't keep it a secret from them. I had to be like, so, hey guys, remember that thing that we were just like not gonna do? I did it. And then my family, I was like, hey guys, hey family, parents, I'm a dildo designer now. My mom is a very reactive person, so I made sure that I phrased it exactly like, I'm a sex worker now. So she was thrilled to receive that news. But no, I mean, everyone, I don't know if it's that if I only keep that company or if I just attract those people, but everybody I know is very sex positive, so I can be as blunt as I want, and people are more than happy to talk about it.
Okay. Rapid fire question. Will there be stickers available for purchase soon?
I send stickers out with every order. I do want to put them up for purchase, but I assume nobody would want any. So yes, very soon.
As in, after we get done, you'll be posting them tonight.
Next time I've got Etsy open, I will put some up.
Since your significant other helps out, does that make it easier on you or harder?
A mixture of both. When you work with somebody who knows so much more than you do, it can kind of be intimidating to keep up. But they know what they know because of costume parts, not dildos. So I do get to bring a certain level of, hey, trust me on this one, isms to, the whole event. But having one, an extra pair of hands is invaluable. Two, somebody who has used Smooth-On's products way longer than I have is invaluable. Half the stuff I have now I wouldn't have without her.
Miss Sappy Snow, the silicone sommelier. What is it like day to day as a maker with ADHD? Ooh,
Without getting too,
actually, add to that. Talk about before medication and after.
Without getting too in the weeds about it, it's hard. It's really hard. Doing anything with ADHD is hard, depending upon how much you suffer from it. Because for me, the number one symptom I have with ADHD was just pure, unbridled executive dysfunction. There could be something that I want to do. It's right in front of me. I want to do it, and I'm mad at myself for not doing it, and I know how to do it. All the tools are there. I just don't do it. Simple as that. Why? No reason. Just don't do it. And it hurts. It hurts so hard. And, whenever the conversation comes up of what's the hardest thing about, getting into this, one of the hardest things about it is to just be nice to yourself and be patient with yourself because you're fighting through a lot of barriers. But what it's like is there are a lot of hyper productive days, and then there are a lot of days that you don't get as much done as you would like, and you're really mad at yourself. But understand that at the end of the week, it balances out. And even if all you're doing is trying to do better next week, that's all you owe yourself. And that's really is what it's like. Is there's some days are hard, some days you get a lot done because, if you have ADHD, you can hyper fixate on stuff, and you will when, the moon is in the right phase or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of it. And my advice also is if you think that you might have ADHD and you have not been able to get around to checking it out with a professional, do because man, it's life-changing. Because again, that executive dysfunction, there are some days that I want to do everything and I can't do anything, and now that's some days. It used to be every day, every single day I didn't get anything done. That's why I dropped out of school twice with college. That's why all those previous hobbies didn't catch on. It's because I simply did not do them. It's rough, and it's hard to explain that to people, because if somebody asks you why didn't you do it, it's like, well, I wanted to, but I didn't. It's like, well, why didn't you simply just do it? It's like I was saying with my friend in the 3D modeling, how he just did it, and I'm like, what do you mean you just did it? How do you just do things? But now I can do things, and it's a different life,
Yeah. There's one of the things that you and I talked about earlier, and this was off when we were doing a tech rehearsal, is about how one of the great things about, I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth here. One of the great things about ADHD was all the different things that you have learned and all the different skills. And then how you have been able to bring all of those skills together, and then how they have kind of coalesced into where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. All the crazy things I've been into. I forget if we covered it or not, but man, I could fill an hour with the stuff that I do in my spare time. I'm a mermaid. I swim with mermaid tails as part of a whole mermaid pod. I fursuit. I brew my own beer and make my own wine and mead. I have a small pepper and herb garden. I love to cook. I DM for Dungeons and Dragons, and I play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm an active member of the fighting game community, and I play Street Fighter at dude, I have so many crazy obsessions. And sometimes I can't channel them in the right direction. Sometimes I can, but the most important part is all these things that I'm doing, they grow me as a person. Things that I learn in one discipline, I can carry over to another. I learned so much about business from the voice acting thing that I can use now. The whole fighting game stuff taught me patience and being willing to make mistakes and be new at stuff. And it's hard. And that taught me how to be new at other things. There's no shortage of usefulness to the things that you learn.
Yeah. That was something that I was when you talked about that earlier, it was something I was like, yeah, I'm really happy to have heard you say something like that. So
yeah. It's nice, man. Again, like the community that I've had here with these adult toys, and like not just people that are like into the same weird, monster dicky stuff as me, but just like I don't want to get too like sincere, but like genuine kindred spirits in this community that like it's meaningful. I love it.
Well, I saw that George did last call for questions earlier, and I think I have gotten to all of them. So, do you have any questions for me? Do you have any last moments, last words, last comments?
I tried to think of some questions, and I could not come up with any. Like, all I could think about, like, offering was wanting to say, like, thank you. Like, you don't see yourself as a role model, but make no mistake, people see you as that, and that might mean a lot to them. Like, you have done a lot to make this community like welcoming and engaging with all the podcasts and the YouTube channel and the tutorials and all the Discord channels and stuff. Like, this place is an open door, and it is open in no small part to you. And because it is the way that it is, I get to be here now talking about ADHD and whatever, So more than anything else, I just wanted to say, oh yeah, ADHD. I wanted to just say thank you, not just for allowing me to be here on your podcast, but for allowing all of us to be here right now, sharing this community that we all want to, elevate. So thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I don't mean to diminish the appreciation that people have. That is not my intention. I just don't see myself that way. So, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get misty now, and yeah. So I need to.
That's not my intention.
I need to do my outro and stuff like that. So hang out for a minute, and I'm gonna go to a different screen where people can't see me, and then you and I will talk a few minutes. Okay.
Right on.
All right. Wave. Say goodnight, and I'll do the thing.
Nice to meet you, everybody. Y'all have a good night.
Okay. All right. Tangent from Monster City Fantasies. Awesome conversation. Next week, we have Gregor from Fab Toys. That's going to be another international conversation. Next week, he's coming from Croatia. So that will be awesome. I think we may have Gregor. It's Fab Toys. That's all I know. Fab Toys from Croatia is going to be joining us next week, Sunday, 7 o'clock Central Time. Do the conversions to where you are. George is screaming something in the background. I don't know. She'll throw it in the chat. With that, I'm out. See you next week. Bye.